Welcome to the RQAP Open Forum. My name is Lydia Brunk. I am the program manager that serves the RQAP program. So I am a resource to you for any RQAP related questions that do not require the expertise of a member of the Council on Professional Registration. And you can send your questions to me at rqap@sqa.org or lydia.brunk@sqa.org. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Nancy and Kara, who are two members of our Council on Professional Registration. And so I will hand it over to Nancy.
Hey, Lydia, I think are we going to start with a poll today?
I did not have that poll set up, but if you would like me to set it up now, I will go ahead and do so.
That's up to you. That must be an artifact from April. We can go ahead and move forward. Fine, let's go to the next slide then. So hi, my name is Nancy Moore. I'm on the Council for Professional Registration for SQA. I just want to welcome you to this forum. It's a place where you'll learn a little bit about the program, some updates, and then you can ask questions about registration, re-registration, and those types of things, and we'll try to answer. We might need Lydia's help on some of the answers, unless they're like mechanics of the question. And we really can't take questions on content of the exam itself. That is, I guess, proprietary, but we can answer questions on sources or resources. Okay, so let's move forward on the first slide. So the state of the program at this point in time, we have 279 RQAP GCPs, 520 RQAP GLP members registered, and 25 special members who are duly registered with GCP and GLP certification. The average passing rate for the life of the exam is 76% for GCP and 72% for GLP. And then our average number of candidates, it's been higher in GLP, but GCP is definitely catching up proportionally. We had about 27 in GCP and 46 in GLP. Next slide, please. So in order to be eligible to sit the exam, you must meet one of two criteria, either to have 2 years of full-time, so 100% work in GCP or GLP, so the equivalent of 24 months, quality assurance experience, and a bachelor's degree, or 4 years of work experience full-time, so 48 months, GCP and GLP with no bachelor's degree. And this is quality assurance auditor experience in either of those areas. Next slide, please. So what does the full-time QA experience? I kind of talked about that just briefly on the last slide. Your role needs to be 100% QA focused. So if you have 50% of your role as QA, then in order to meet the criteria with a bachelor's degree, you'd actually have to have 4 years in role, right? Because you need that 24 full months of experience. We find that is not, it's not a criteria just as a bar that you have to pass. It's a criteria that helps you gain the experience that you need in order to apply it and pass the exam successfully. This audit experience, or the QA experience that we're talking about, is with audits and inspections required either by GCP or GLP, depending on which exam you're sitting for. It may include computer system validation, informed consent, that would be for GCP, test or investigational product, test article, accountability, AEs, study reports, vendor activities, anything that has to do with oversight of study activities. And then there are some small pieces around SOP writing, review, and management. And then a lot of the exam is centered around analyzing and evaluating and advising in matters related to GCP or GLP. So it's not just that knowledge, but do you know um, how to apply the oversight piece for a study? Do you know the right steps to take after a couple of years in role? Okay, next slide, please. So what does not count? Working as a CRA in GCP or a study director in GLP does not equate to QA experience. You do need to have on your CV and in your experience pocket a experience as an auditor or as a QA professional. The exams are, like I said, designed to test your not only your knowledge of the overall regulations, but also how you can apply the principles of that QA professional to practical situations during study oversight. And the exams definitely require more than just knowing the subject matter. That's important, and especially terminology between the different types of GLPs, for example. That's very important too. But you need to have practical experience to be able to understand how to be a QA professional in order to sit for the exam and be successful. Next slide, please. Okay, so cost. One of the reasons we want you to be successful in taking the exam is that it's there is a cost to it. So for non-members, it's $625 US. If you're a member of our MOU organization with SQA, it's $535 US. And then SQA members, it's $450 US for either the GCP or the GLP. And then if you're in an outreach country, that's those countries that are classified as low income, low middle income, as defined by the World Bank. There's a list of these
Yeah,
on these links.
wouldn't that be nice?
Um,
I mean, it's not,
that
it's
would be
not, but
$150. Additionally, we do have deadlines throughout the year for applying to sit for the exam. So if you miss that deadline, you can still apply, but there will be a late fee. Possibly, there's a point where I think you missed the cutoff. You'll have to go to the next group, but there is a late fee of $50, and then there are some accommodations for non-native English speakers. These accommodations are listed on our webpage. And then to provide those, we ask $50, and this is to provide this at the center. I think it goes toward those costs at the testing center. Next slide, please. So, as I said about the testing center, there's different delivery options. There's the option of taking it at a testing center. This is most recommended. You visit the test site, you complete the test in person on an exam computer, and then I hear a little bit of an echo.
But it needs to mute.
Yeah. Our other possibility is OnView. So that is a remote proctored exam that you can complete from your home. This was definitely a great option, of course, during COVID. It is live proctored. Someone watches you take the exam. However, I will say that if you ask us when are people most frustrated about the test experience, it's usually with the OnView. Sometimes the technology doesn't work in some countries. There's no dictionary accommodation for non-native English speakers because literally when you're taking the test, if you look down, if you get up for any reason, like if your cat comes into the room or something like that, the proctor will shut you down, and you may be able to retake the test, but in some cases you may not, and it's a very frustrating experience. So it's an option if you really need it, but we recommend the best possible experience to go to the testing center to take your certification exam. Next slide, please. Then my final slide, then we'll move to Kara, is exam development. How are the RQAP exams created? There are 2 exam committees, one focused on GCP, so a whole group, and then a separate group for GLP. Sometimes you'll see surveys that come out, the job task analysis, asking questions about what QA auditors do and their role. And this is normally, it's updated every few years so that we can help also have current job tasks on the certification. Then we have content outline based on the results. So the committee creates an outline. Exam items are written. This happens in committee. And also, if you've seen during our SQA meetings, requests for folks who want to sit and help write exam questions. Those exam questions are put together, and then a passing score study is completed. This is to help understand if the any of the questions are very difficult to understand, or if they're, maybe they need to be reworded a little bit. And once that study is completed, then the exam is certified, so then it's administered. We also have item analysis that we do after the exam or during, I would say during a live exam time period. The committee will look at certain questions. Multiple people are having trouble with them, just to look at if it's worded correctly. Maybe, it's not set up in a way to be accurate. And then as we go through the life cycle of the exam, exam items are written, or more, test questions are written. They're reviewed and pilot tested in the same way before becoming official questions. So anytime that you sit for an exam, some of the questions may be test questions that we have, and may not be counted towards your score. And you can earn re-registration credits for being appointed as part of the exam committee or the re-registration committee, and also by participating in the question writing, or possibly if there's the passing score study or those types of things as they come up. So as those opportunities come up, it would be good to raise your hand and get involved if you want to make re-registration credits for those things. All right, should I stop for questions for a second or move on to Kara?
Let's go ahead and I'll move on to Kara. I do see a question there are questions in the chat, but we can answer them at the end of the presentation. And there will be time for questions. We have blocked off until noon Eastern, and we're about halfway through the presentation.
So there will be time. Fantastic. All right. I do want to just add, before I start into my slides, I did participate in exam development, and it is a very lengthy and thorough process. So we will see, and when you do see questions on the exam, please understand that they have been vetted fairly thoroughly. Okay. Going on then to the next slide. Yeah, so what's the best way? We get this question all the time. First of all, I guess I could introduce myself. My name is Kara Harrison. I'm the past chair of the RQAP exam, or I'm sorry, the Council for Professional Registration. I've been a part of CPR for, I want to say, 5 years now. And yes, questions are multiple choice. How can you prepare for the RQAP? There's nothing better than experience. There are certain things, as we all know, in quality that you just can't learn from a book or from someone else. You have to do it yourself. So that is why there is that 2-year minimum of experience. It's not something to just take a test because you've studied. This is really real world application. Saying that, however, there are many resources that are available to you on not only the candidate resource page, but in the handbook. There are practice exams that are available. There are forums and study groups, both for GCP and GLP, that are available online and some locally. I recommend that if you're really serious about passing, that you take advantage of every single one of these resources, because they do have value and they will help you. The exam is multiple choice, and it is can be tricky because it will, test your understanding, knowledge, and application. Next slide, please, Lydia. There you go. There we go. We also, if you're going to register and you're going to take the exam, it behooves you to keep it up and to re-register. So there are also requirements for re-registration, which are 48 units. Each unit is an hour. You are required to obtain 48 units or 48 equivalent hours every 3 years. Of those 48 units, 24 need to be discipline specific. So if I have my RQAP and GCP, then 24 hours or units of my re-registration application need to be in the GCP arena. Vice versa, GLP would be the same. We've made it as easy as possible to submit your re-registration application and hours online. There is not only a transcript available that is populated when you attend a SQA sponsored event. Those units are automatically approved. Sometimes you take a class or a forum that is not SQA specific. You still want to go ahead and submit those, because we do have a number of volunteers who review applications and submissions to determine whether or not they're acceptable as a unit. And so it's in your best interest to submit everything online, submit everything that could be credited toward your re-registration. And it is thoroughly documented. Documentation is very important. It's also in the handbook about what types of re-registration activities are accepted. And you can go ahead and re-register. There are a lot of free sources out there. It can be done. It is harder, of course, than attending a SQA sponsored and cost, but it can be done. You can re-register. There's all sorts of free information out there. There's webinars. The best way to save cost is to be an SQA active member, and then also, take advantage of the available resources. It seems hard at times to get that 48 units, but it's definitely doable. I've done it now for the last 15 years and have not had an issue at all with obtaining those units. Next slide, please. So we've talked about the registration. We're talking about the re-registration. Just to follow up on that last statement, low or no cost activities, in-house training, webinars, the committee. You can serve on a committee. You can serve as a volunteer. You can participate in the mentoring program, which I recommend. I have been both a mentor and a mentee and have really learned a lot from that opportunity. There are also opportunities throughout the year to help with volunteering at SQA meetings, reviewing abstracts, serving on the exam committee once you have been registered. There are a lot of low or no cost registration activities. So I encourage you to look for those and not allow the cost to prevent you from going forward with your registration. Next slide. Okay, so you may ask, what's in it for me? Why should I care about getting my RQAP? Does it add anything to me as a employee, or does it impress anybody? Well, people do care, and it shows your commitment to the industry and to your knowledge base. We did a program survey of which 210 people responded and had a favorable opinion of the RQAP program and those people who have obtained that credential. So again, it does good for your career. It shows your commitment to the industry, the commitment to your career. This is what they said. The top benefits of having employees that hold this credential. It just demonstrates a working knowledge of the regulations and tasks. It's a good opportunity for professional development and growth. And if you're like me, you want to continue professional development and make sure that you have up-to-date understanding. It shows that they have a strong and knowledgeable and reliable. You benefit the organization. Also, it helps for your clients to have the confidence that your QA team does know what they say. And it also, it's a justification. It's a continuing requirement. So it's definitely an incentive to keep people trained and up to date. Keep going. Next slide. And what benefits to the registrants do they see for themselves? We asked 144 to rate how much the credential benefited them, 1 to 5. One respondent noted that the senior positions require this credential. They also earn a higher salary. Rated 39% rated the RQAP credential as a 4 of 5 out of 5. And it helps as an incentive to complete continuing education. The overwhelming majority of our respondents rated the credential as 4 or 5. And 57% of their companies would pay for this to maintain this very valuable credential. So it really shows that you are committed to the career, to your knowledge base, to the industry. And then also, it just differentiates you from the crowd. Next slide. Check out the website, the frequently asked questions. Reach out to the committee members. We have some quick links for commonly asked questions for each one of the exams for re-registration and the facts. Lydia and team at SQA headquarters doing a fantastic job of keeping us aligned and focused. Really do appreciate the support that that team gives us and the registrants for the RQAP exam. There are many, many resources available for you in the candidate handbook, also on the candidate website portion of the site. And we hold open forums fairly regularly where we will take questions and ask, more opinions. But I encourage you to go to the website. I encourage you to use the resources as you move forward with your registration endeavor. Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our presentation. We can open it up now to questions.
So what I'm going to do today is I am going to go ahead and read through the questions that we have in the chat. And if I'm able to answer them because they are logistical questions, I will do so. And if not, I will pass them over to Kara. Nancy unfortunately has to step off. So let me just go ahead and open up that chat. I'm seeing some questions about the rules in testing centers, and I do not have that information at this time. I'd have to double check in terms of whether or not you're allowed to use the bathroom or have snacks in a testing center. But I will get that information to those people who have questions. If you can send that question to rqap@sqa.org, I will get a response to you as soon as possible.
I can speak to the
Oh, go ahead.
US-based testing centers.
Mhm.
Those are, there is a specific name that we utilize for that. I can't remember right offhand, but I do know that at least in the US, you are only allowed to bring a pencil and maybe some paper. You are not allowed to bring any personal items unless you have a medical need for something to be in there with you. I also remember that we were not allowed to take breaks. We were not allowed to leave the room until we completed. So other testing centers, depending upon their affiliation, may have different rules, but you are not allowed to take anything with knowledge base or communication, anything like that, pencil and paper. That was what we were allowed to take into the testing center. Okay.
So I'm a diabetic and I need to have like nuts just in case my blood sugar goes weird. So, I mean, like a small Ziploc bag of nuts would be okay, I would assume. Okay.
Again, there is a medical need for that. You'll have to check with the individual testing centers.
Okay.
And they do, most of them have online presence or rules that can be provided to you in advance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can confirm medical needs will be accommodated and how to accommodate them. So then the next person asks, do we have to pay in case we opt for exam center, or it's already covered in the exam fee? Everything is covered in the exam fee. There are no additional fees once you've made your payment for the exam application fee. And then Diana says, will there be time to discuss the CV submission? I think that's for the exam. You're welcome to put any questions you have about that in the chat. And then when someone asks, when will we know if our application is accepted? That will happen by mid-September at the latest. If you sent your CV in earlier, you may hear back earlier, but mid-September is the latest you will hear back. Someone asks, will the resource study group links be available shared with all after this meeting? I've placed the candidate resource page in the chat, but we will also share a recording and the slides from this open forum. And then someone wants to know, when are the study groups starting for exam preparation? They're actually starting this week. There will be a session tomorrow, a session on Thursday, and a joint session on Wednesday for both GCP and GLP. And how do we join a study group? If you go to the candidate resource page, there will be a link to register for the study groups. It's the same as if you were registering for a webinar, but the study groups are free to anyone, so you will not have to make a payment. And I do believe, as someone said, pencil, that is surprising. I don't believe pencils are allowed anymore if you're taking the exam in the current day.
This was 15 years ago, so sorry, y'all.
Okay, how to start preparation for RQAP exam and tips for preparation. I would go look over the candidate resource page. That is probably the extent of advice that has been offered. There are links to the study groups, links to the study references, and sort of a collation of tips from previous exam participants. And then Dawn says, can you please specify from the 2 years experience how many hours of auditing experience needed with an off-site auditor when they come to do a site visit? If they only come on site a few times a year, this disqualified me for my last application and I have more than 4 years experience auditing.
Dawn, why don't we set up, because it might be beneficial to have a one-on-one discussion with someone on the CPR to understand your specific experience. Because I'm not really understanding from this text what you mean by an off-site auditor when they come to do a site visit. So if you would like, let's set up a call between yourself and another CPR member and get more information from you directly. Would that work? Are you still there, Dawn? Okay,
She says, sure, thank you in the chat.
fantastic.
Okay. And then we have, so Dawn, if you would like to, if you'd like to send an email to rqap@sqa.org, we can get that set up for you. All right. Can you please specify, just coming back to my, and then Diana says the verification of experience references on the application only, correct? Not to be listed on the CV. So on the application form, there is a place for professional reference, which I believe is what you're asking, Diana. We typically don't need to contact that reference, but we have them there in case there are any questions that can't be verified by talking to you. The CV is for showing your experience. We do have you sign a statement as part of the application, essentially attesting to the fact that you're following the ethics guidelines and that the information provided on your CV is correct to the best of your knowledge. So we typically do go with the information you've put on your CV unless something really wonky happens. And then Diana says, do you need to be registered for the exam before registering for the study groups? You do not. You're welcome to join the study groups under any circumstances. Even if you're thinking about taking the exam sometime in the next few years, you do not need to be registered. Pratima asks, is there a charge for the study groups? No, the study groups are free. Elsa asks, how do we know? Get the link to the exam prep session tomorrow. And that is, so I've placed in the chat a link to the candidate resources page, and I will put that back in the chat again once I have a minute. And on that page, there will be a link to register for the study groups. You will need to be signed into your SQA account. Now, once you've registered for the study groups, it will not send you an automatic email. What you will need to do is go into the online learning center and find the course for each of the study groups. And then from there, you will be able to access the ability to download a calendar invitation or to directly access the Zoom link for the study group sessions. And then there's a question that says, for RQAP GCP, candidate resource mentions 21 CFR Part 11 as one of the guidelines that candidates must be familiar with. FDA released it in 1997. There were 2 further related guidances released by FDA in 2003 and in 2007. Do we need to read through each of these to prep, or is working experience on overall 21 CFR Part 11 sufficient? Just trying to understand the direction so candidates can plan their time accordingly. Kara, do you have any input on that?
Yeah, it's good to know the history of this regulation. And I recommend you reading as much as you can. Would your working experience be enough? That's really hard to say because I don't know your level of understanding or experience. So again, if you feel confident in what you know, then perhaps you wouldn't need to refresh your memory on those guidances or review those guidances directly. Unfortunately, it's going to be up to you to decide if you know it well enough. So I recommend if the information is there, take a look at it and be familiar with it.
Thank you, Kara. We have a question. How have the numbers of registrants in GCP, GLP, and both changed over the years, or have the numbers remained consistent? So I don't have the numbers in front of me over time, but I would say that the numbers of each sort of increase bit by bit over the years because we do have more people taking the exam, and a majority of those do continue to re-register to maintain that certification, that credential. So there is an increase in the number of registrants year by year, and you will see that there is a larger number of GLP registrants, and that is because we offered the GLP exam for a few years at least before we began to offer the GCP exam. That's primarily the reason for that. Diana says, I would like to register today since it is the deadline for the application. How many hours do you recommend of preparation for the GCP exam? I have over 20 years of auditing experience. And I'll pass this on to Kara, but I did just want to say thank you, Diana, for reminding us that today is the deadline for the regular application deadline. If you would like to apply for the exam and you do not wish to pay the late fee, then you would need to have your application and payment in by midnight tonight. Both the payment and the application itself are available online at sqa.org. And we have had a few people located in China having some issues with the payment. If you are having an issue with the payment and you email us to let us know about that on the day of the deadline, we'll be happy to honor that price for you and not charge you that late fee. And then another thing to say is if you are located in an outreach country, you will need to make sure that you have submitted your outreach application at least 24 hours in advance of making your exam payment so that we can process that application and get that correct price for you. And then I'll go ahead and pass it on to Kara for addressing of the question of how many hours do you recommend of preparation?
Oh, that's a good one. Some people don't prep at all and are still able to pass. Some folks do lots and lots of prep and may have challenges. I think it depends on your level of confidence in your experience. With 20 years of experience, you may not need to prepare as much. I definitely recommend a study group. I definitely recommend review of information. I took mine in 2010, 2009, 2010. I prepped maybe 6 hours and a study group, and I passed it the first time. So, that's a hard one to answer, but I think it comes back to your level of confidence in your experience and how much you know. Hope that helps, Diana.
All right, and then the next question we have is, can you please repeat the days of the study groups this week? This person signed up but has not received a link. So yes, you will not receive a direct link. You will have to go and access that in the Learning Management Center. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I am going to send that link to the candidate resources page where you can sign up for either of the two study groups. So I'm going to put that in the chat in just a minute as soon as I get that copied and pasted. And then I am going to also send a link So once you are registered for this, you will be able to access this link. So this is the GLP study group. It is starting tomorrow, the 13th of August. And within the online learning center course, you will be able to download a calendar invitation for these, and you will be able to access the Zoom link. So if you click on that and it's giving you essentially an error message, that is because you have not yet registered. You will need to register first before you're able to access that particular online learning center course. And give me just a second and I will pull up and send the link to the GCP study group course. And someone asked if the sessions will be recorded. Yes, they will be recorded. So this here is the GCP study group course. So again, if you're clicking on these links and you are seeing that you are not able to access these study groups, that is because you have not yet registered. Once you have registered for the study groups, you will be able to access those online learning center courses. All right, let me go up and see about further. Okay. So days of the week study groups, this Tuesday is starting for the GLP, this Thursday is starting for the GCP. And then on Wednesday, there is a special joint session on the psychology of test taking, which I do really recommend if you're able to attend it, because we have a lot of folks who give the feedback that they were not expecting to have difficulty with that part of the exam taking process, but that they felt that that preparing for the actual testing process would have been helpful for them. Someone says, I wondered if anyone had feedback, good or bad, on any benefit to the ebook offered by Barnett, good clinical practice, a question and answer reference guide. So anyone who's in this group can feel free to post in the chat about their feedback on the ebook by Barnett. Someone said, is there any tips to people who need to participate in the examination from China? Other members who have taken the exam, in terms of the feedback you'll see on the candidate resource page, have recommended that people who are not native English speakers should take the accommodations offered if they can do so. That is the only piece of feedback that I've heard specifically for people who are not located in the US. I would also say, just a quick note, that China is one of the locations where those on-view online testing is not offered. So you would need to make sure that you are preparing to take the exam in a testing center. How to apply for mentorship was a question, and that is going to be available on our SQA website. I'm not sure if the mentoring program has opened quite yet, but it looks like one will open later this month. And you do need to be an SQA member in order to participate. But again, if you are located in a country classified as low income, lower middle income, or upper middle income by the World Bank, you may be eligible for an outreach membership, which is free. Okay. Someone says, any preparation on upcoming ICH E6R3 is required, or ICH E6R2? Kara, can you speak to that?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Can you repeat that? I don't see it here.
No worries. This person wanted to know if it's required to have knowledge or preparation of the upcoming ICH E6R3 or ICH E6R2. Is that required for one of the exams?
I think we're just focused. Well, it might be helpful to have an understanding or at least a knowledge of it, but the actual exam is only including those regulations and guidances that are currently active.
Okay, let's see. Someone asked if they have already applied once and were accepted and have already taken the exam. You do need to submit an application and payment, but you will be automatically approved if you are reapplying the second time. Will the study group sessions be recorded? Yes, they'll be recorded. If, oh, there were some folks who had questions about an email that I sent out on Friday notifying those who had submitted an application, but for whom I did not yet see a payment. Our system takes about 24 hours to process a payment to a stage where I would be able to see that with your application. So if you applied on Thursday the 8th or Friday the 9th, and you have a receipt from SQA that says you made that payment, you are good to go. That payment was received and processed. It's simply that I did not see that on my end when sending out that notice. And I have some emails in my inbox about that, and I will try to get to them as soon as possible. Unfortunately, closer to the deadline, there is a little bit of a flood of emails regarding the exam and various questions and issues. All right, so I think that is all the questions that I have in the chat. If I didn't get to your question or if you have a new one, please feel free to pop that in now so that I can address it. Someone asked if we apply today, it will show up as late due to cost processing. No, it will not. If you apply today and make your payment today, you will still be paying the normal price, and I will tomorrow collect any applications that were sent in today. We're aware of this, and we take the appropriate sort of compensatory measures. It's just that in that quick reminder email, it wasn't possible to individually check those people to whom I was sending a reminder, since there were a large number. So again, if you apply today, it will not appear to be late. I will be able to take your payment normally and get that set in for you. Someone asked, can we schedule our exam date before we hear if we have been approved? Unfortunately, that's not possible because we only have the option to register you with our testing partner if you have been approved. Essentially, as soon as you've been approved, we schedule you with the testing partner and they'll send you an email to make that exam appointment. But if we were to register you beforehand, then it would be a complicated situation because we would have to revoke your authorization and we would still be paying fees for that. It would be a complicated situation, unfortunately. So you need to wait until you are approved before you schedule your exam. And I would recommend that if you are applying for the exam, you go through to from the exam page, there is a link to access the Pearson VUE website, and there is a seat search system which will allow you to see the availabilities at testing centers near you. If you use that system and there's only 1 or 2 testing centers nearby, I would recommend looking and seeing what their availability looks like during the testing period and making a backup plan if you are not able to get your first choice of testing center. And additionally, if for whatever reason you are approved to take the exam this time and you are not able to do so, you do have the opportunity to defer your registration to a future exam period. All right, are there any further questions that anyone would like to put into the chat? Not seeing any. Kara, do you have any final message that you'd like to say to everyone who is considering the exam or re-registration this time?
Absolutely. Thank you for your interest. Again, as I said earlier during our conversations, I recommend that everyone seriously consider going for the registration because it does show your commitment. It does show your knowledge base. At a minimum, you know what you're doing. You're able to apply your knowledge to an exam and pass it. Also, with the continuing commitment to read registration, you are again differentiating yourself from your other colleagues. So I'm always going to recommend it. And, it just shows. Thank you for your time very much. Thank you for your time and best of luck.
Thank you, everyone. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, please go ahead and send an email to rqap@sqa.org and we'll get things set up for you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and good luck to those who are applying and taking the exam in the upcoming exam period.